Number 25. The TVA Kingston fossil plant coal fly ash slurry spill. It's a pretty crazy name, right? It's real though. In an 84-acre solid waste containment area, an ash dike ruptured in the early hours of December 22, 2008. This fossil plant in Rowan County, Tennessee, held 1.1 billion gallons of coal fly ash slurry, which was expelled, causing a mud flow wave. Although there were no reported fatalities or injuries, it damaged several properties and government facilities. Number 24. The Exxon Valdez oil spill. On March 24, 1989, 260,000 barrels of crude oil were spilled in Prince William Sound, Alaska, by the oil tanker Exxon Valdez after it ran into Bly Reef. It's considered to be one of the most devastating human-caused environmental disasters, with both the long-term and short-term effects of the oil spill having been studied. Immediate effects include the deaths of 100,000 seabirds, 2,000 sea otters, 300 harbor seals, 250 bald eagles, and 22 orcas, and an unknown number of salmon and herring. Number 23. The Pacific Gyre Garbage Patch. Another example of the negative effects of human waste, the Pacific Gyre Garbage Patch is a gyre of marine debris in the central North Pacific Ocean. This patch, which is characterized by high concentration of pelagic plastics, chemical sludge, and other debris, formed gradually as a result of the marine pollution gathered by oceanic currents. Number 22. The Jilin chemical plant explosions. This was a series of explosions which occurred on November 13, 2005, in the number 101 petrochemical plant in Jilin City, China. These explosions were responsible for the deaths of 6 workers and injured dozens, causing the evacuation of tens of thousands of residents. To add insult to injury, they severely polluted the Songhua River with an estimated 100 tons of pollutants containing benzene and nitrobenzene, whose exposure reduces white blood cell count and is linked to leukemia. Number 21. Castle Bravo. The codename Castle Bravo was given to the first United States test of a dry-fuel thermonuclear hydrogen bomb. It was detonated on Bikini Atoll, Marshall Islands on March 1, 1954, as the first test of Operation Castle, and was the most powerful nuclear device ever detonated by the United States at the time. This test led to the most significant accidental radiological contamination ever caused by the United States. Number 20. The 3 Mile Island nuclear explosion. The 3 Mile Island accident was a partial nuclear meltdown which occurred in one of the 2 United States nuclear reactors on March 28, 1979. Located on 3 Mile Island in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, it was the worst accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history, with the partial meltdown resulting in the release of small amounts of radioactive gases and radioactive iodine into the environment. Number 19. The Kuwait Oil Fires. Around 6 million barrels of oil were lost from January to November 1991. 600 oil wells were set afire as part of the scorched earth policy by the retreating Iraqi military forces. $1.5 billion was spent by Kuwait to extinguish the fires that caused heavy pollution to the soil and air. Number 18. The Door to Hell. In Derwizi, Turkmenistan, a drilling rig made by Soviet geologists in 1971 gave way to a large hole measuring 70 meters in diameter, exposing a large methane gas reservoir. Fearing the environmental impact due to the substantial methane gas release, the geologists decided to burn it off. Unfortunately, the gas is still burning today. Number 17. The Palomares Incident. The crash of the B-52 bomber of the U.S. Air Force Strategic Air Command on January 17, 1966 led to the plutonium contamination of Palomares, a small village in the municipality of Cuevas de Almonzara, Almeria, Spain. The jet-powered strategic bomber carried non-nuclear explosives that detonated, causing political conflict between the two countries. 40 years later, traces of the blast are still evident. Number 16. The Sidoarjo Mud Flow. Sidoarjo, the largest mud volcano in the world, also known as the Lapindo Mud, exists today because of the gas blowout wells drilled by PT Lapindo Bronta. Bronta denies this, however, and claims that the mud flows were created by an earthquake. 180,000 cubic meters of mud per day is spewed at its peak and has been in eruption since May 2006. Number 15. The Libby, Montana asbestos contamination. Vermiculite mines in Libby, Montana gave the local residents jobs and helped the local economy. However, due to the mine's high use of asbestos, the residents suffered related disorders such as mesothelioma. Because of mine activities that started back in 1919, residents continue to suffer until today. Number 14. The Deepwater Horizon, or BP oil spill. This oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico is considered the largest accidental marine oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry. The spill was a direct result of the explosion and sinking of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig, which claimed 11 lives. Total oil wasted is estimated at 4.9 million barrels. Number 13. The Amako Cadiz. A huge crude carrier bearing the flag of Liberia split into 3 parts and sank, releasing 1,600,000 barrels of light crude oil and 4,000 tons of fuel oil, making it the largest oil spill of its kind at that time and resulted in the largest loss of marine life ever recorded from an oil spill. Number 12. The Exocide in Vietnam. During the Vietnam War, destruction of the farmland and rice paddies that fed the enemy was promulgated by the American military strategists. Other than these areas, which were the source of food and livelihood for the Vietnamese people, the jungle, along with its flora and fauna, was also devastated. Number 11. The Al-Mashrak Fire. Al-Mashrak is a state-run sulfur plant near Mosul, Iraq, which in June 2003 was the site of the largest human-made release of sulfur dioxide ever recorded. A fire thought to have been deliberately started burned for almost a month, spewing 21,000 tons of sulfur dioxide a day into the atmosphere. Number 10. The Love Canal. In the 1940s, 21,000 tons of toxic industrial waste, including the highly toxic dioxin, was buried by Hooker Chemical in this New York neighborhood, which led to an adverse effect on nearby residents of Love Canal. The Love Canal neighborhood started gaining international attention as the health impact of such pollution became evident with miscarriages, cancers, and birth defects, and has been described as a national symbol of failure to exercise a sense of concern for future generations. Number 9. The Gulf of Mexico Dead Zone. The most infamous hypoxic zone in the United States, the Gulf of Mexico's dead zone, is the dumping area for nitrogen and phosphorus, just 2 of the many high-nutrient runoffs. These substances come from the Mississippi River, which is the drainage area from almost half of continental America. Number 8. Minamata disease. Considered one of the 4 major pollution diseases in the history of Japan, Minamata is caused by severe mercury poisoning that attacks the nervous system. In 1956, Chiso Corporation's industrial wastewater containing methyl mercury was released into Minamata Bay and the Shiranui Sea. 2,265 fatalities are recognized as a direct consequence of polluting this area. Number 7. The Seveso disaster. In July of 1976, an explosion at a chemical manufacturing plant north of Milan, Italy, released tetrachlorobenzo-P-dioxin, or TCDD, into the atmosphere, adversely affecting the nearby town of Seveso. Shortly thereafter, 3,300 animals died, and many more were put down in order to prevent the spread of contamination into the food chain. Children were hospitalized with skin inflammation, and nearly 500 people were found to have skin lesions. Number 6. E-waste in Gyre, China. Gyre, China is the location of what may be the largest electronic waste site on Earth. As a result, 88% of the children in the area suffer from lead poisoning, and there is more than the average rate of miscarriages. Consequently, the province is sadly referred to as the electronic graveyard. Number 5. The Bhopal cyanide spill. After the Chernobyl incident in Russia, this cyanide spill in Bhopal, Romania, is aptly called the worst environmental disaster in Europe. On January 3, 2000, 100,000 cubic meters of cyanide-contaminated water leaked out from a dam, spewing out 100 tons of cyanide. An incredible amount of fish and aquatic plants were killed, and up to 100 people were hospitalized after eating contaminated fish. Number 4. The shrinking of the Aral Sea. Dubbed as one of the planet's worst environmental disasters, 10% of the Aral Sea's 68,000 square kilometers has disappeared due to the diversion of rivers for irrigation. That percentage, that was once a part of the 4th largest inland body of water, is now a plain of highly saline soil with depleting marine life. Number 3. The Bhopal Disaster. Known as the world's worst industrial disaster, more than 500,000 people were exposed to methyl isocyanate gas and other toxic chemicals in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India, on the night of December 2, 1984. The Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant's leak of the poisonous gas claimed 2,259 casualties. Number 2. The Chernobyl nuclear explosion. Being 1 out of 2 accidents classified as level 7 on the International Nuclear Event Scale, Chernobyl is known as the worst nuclear power plant incident in history. Cancers, deformities, and other long-term illnesses were the scars for both humans and animals. Number 1. The Great Smog of '52. Thousands died and 100,000 fell ill because of a blanket of smog that covered London for 5 days in 1952. Cold weather combined with windless conditions collected airborne pollutants from the use of coal to form a thick layer of smog over the city. Recent research showed that 12,000 premature deaths can be attributed to this smog.